Hello guys, so we're trying a new format on the channel, and for this particular video we are going to be talking about the new announcement from shadcn. I think most of you guys have already come across this particular announcement, right? Which involves the team going with base UI as a default component library, right? I think that was like some days ago, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. It's actually a long tweet. Which, if you're interested, I think I'll leave a link to this particular tweet for people that want to read. But I just want to jump into the change log real quick to see what the interesting announcement is. It's very, very interesting, right? I think if you've been using shadcn for a while, maybe in development or to like build out your front-end applications, you should understand what and how important this is. So first off, let's quickly just go back. Now we have Radix UI, or should I call it Radix primitives, right? It's mostly used to build your design systems. Many developers, including myself, have been using this for a very long time. Different team I get to work with, I mostly always introduce this particular design, or should I say building block, to them to use it to build their front-end applications, because number one, it's unstyled and it's very clean to use. When I mean clean, I mean very, very interesting to use. If you've tried Radix, you understand what I mean to use, like building your component. Like you could style your components, and if you're using stuff like Tailwind CSS, right, behind the hood to style your components, it makes it very easier for you. But now, shadcn came out 2023. I think you can see it in the changelog already. All this stuff we're going to be talking about on this video. I'll keep it very short. I'll just be yapping throughout this video. But shadcn came out 2023, and we all know shadcn was built on Radix UI. You have to install Radix UI. It was a core dependency, right, to use shadcn. But at a point, I think Radix UI stopped having new changes. The team wasn't pretty much working on Radix UI anymore, and there were not new changes coming to the team. And I think as of then, Radix UI was being managed by the guys at Work OS. All right. And there's a bit of history in between that, in between there, but I don't want to get it wrong. But I think we'll just skip that. So when it came out 2023, Radix UI was the bare bone that was controlling shadcn. We all loved it, right? Fast forward a few years, which was like a year or two after shadcn was already out, there was a new component library called base UI, right? So base UI, this is the unstyled UI component for building accessible user interfaces, right? So this was introduced to the ecosystem. Now what makes this very interesting to the history of shadcn is because base UI was also introduced, or was created, by the same team that created Radix UI, right? So it felt like the team from Radix UI, right, or Radix, they moved over to something new, to working on a new component library, which is called base UI, right? So basically, we all know on the front end side of things change every day, right? So the conversation was, shadcn, can we quickly just move over to base UI, since Radix UI is no longer maintainable, or is not being maintained by the team. But Radix had to but shadcn had to do the best thing that every library maintainer, right, we actually do in such situation, which was rewriting the whole docs, creating new component that could support base UI. I think that was last year. We got an announcement from shadcn talking about, oh, we have the option to use base UI or Radix UI. And I think that was even very, very interesting. And that was at the age of agents, where we like had a lot of AI agents. If you were installing shadcn in a new project, a new Next.js project, a new React project, or a new JavaScript project, you were asked if you wanted to use base UI or Radix, right? So shadcn had to rewrite the whole component from scratch. They had to add support for the new base UI. I think he said it here. He said they had to recreate every component, rewrote all the docs, and let everybody choose, right? So you had to choose Radix UI or Base UI. This was interesting. But over the year, I think a year ago, until now, based on the feedback, should I say based on the community feedback shadcn already got about people using, how people were using shadcn and what component library they were going with, they got to realize that the shadcn team or shadcn, they had to realize that a lot of people were going with Base UI, right? They were all going with Base UI, I think minus myself, because if I was starting a next year's project today and I was going to use shadcn for managing my component, right? My components library, my design system, I was going to go with Radix UI because I was used to the OG Radix UI. But based on the feedback, based on the analytics, right, that were coming to the team, a lot of people were going with Base UI, right? So it makes more sense. It makes pretty much all the sense that they were going to adapt Base UI already as a default. So that was the announcement, right? So it was like starting today, we're making Base UI the default component library in shadcn. Bam, that was it straight up. Now it gets very, very interesting. Now you ask yourself, why did Base UI actually won? Why did shadcn why did Base UI won? Why did shadcn not still left or did not left the option of like going with Radix UI or not? We all know that Base UI, I think we have it open up over here. Base UI currently, let's quickly open up the GitHub. I think they're in version 1.6. We just need to confirm. I think they're in version 1.6 already. They have millions of weekly download, right? And shadcn basically use it internally, and you get to and a lot of projects, right, in shadcn we're already using Base UI instead of Radix, right? So basically that explains why shadcn had to go with using Radix as its default component library behind shadcn. But now it gets interesting, because you might start asking yourself, okay, what happens to my project, or what happens to project I'm already using Radix? What happens to Radix UI? Can I still use them? Yeah, definitely. You don't need to, you might not need to migrate your production app first, right? Because Radix is still, I think I checked as of this morning or recording this video, changes were being pushed to Radix UI, right? There were some changes that are still being pushed. So you might not have to change your component library immediately, right? If you have a production app. And it's quite interesting to clear this out, that Radix is not being depreciated as we speak right now, right? So both libraries will continue to be supported on the shadcn project. All the apps that you've built in the past, and for me as an example, all the apps I've gotten to build in the past, they're still going to stay on Radix, right? New components will still be introduced in Radix UI, for that's on the shadcn side of things. And I think it's mostly going to be only components that are only available on Base UI that we'll see on the Base UI side of things. So in some total, you don't have to panic about the changes. Your apps should just stay the way they are. I think I already said that. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to npm install whatever or npm update. Okay, it gets interesting. Yes, I know. I'm trying to wrap. Yeah, I'm trying to wrap up this video right now. It gets very interesting right now. So now, if you go through the change log, you read about what it means when you're ready to migrate. Yeah, I want to talk about this. It says, do you need to migrate? You mostly don't really need to migrate, right? Because why? They already built a skill for it. So skill, if you don't know what skill is, so skills are basically they are reusing capabilities for your AI for your AI agents, right? So from skill.sh, you could basically install your skills to enhance your AI agent, right? To more access, to more knowledge and more context. All right. So as you all know, this is 2026. You might be watching this video in the future, but we are already in the age of using AI agents. We mostly don't write code by hand anymore, right? And shadcn also had to take that into consideration for the migration, because if they're going to write a migration, or if they're going to write a way for people to migrate from Radix, for people that want to migrate their application from Radix to Base UI, they might have to do it manually, right? But now, beautifully, we're in the age of AI skills, AI agents, MCPs, loops, and whatever, right? They introduce a skill, so you just add PNPM, if you're using PNPM or NPM or Yarn or Bond, whatever package manager, doesn't matter. PNPM, whatever skill, had shadcn UI. So then you ask your AI agent, migrate accordion to base UI. Automatically, your AI agent does this. It migrates it from Radix UI to base UI automatically. Okay, so this has been has been an amazing video. I've just been yapping for like minutes and minutes because it's I would say it's quite interesting because a lot of us in the ecosystem or a lot of developers that mostly build like UI components are mostly adapting shadcn for its flexibility to design your application and gives that feel. And I think there's a lot of conversations around shadcn component or shadcn apps looks all the same, but I feel like it's mostly just your taste, right? Because you can always design these applications, or you can always design your application to your own taste and your own feel. It doesn't even have to look the same, right? As long as skill issue, we all know that. So my thoughts for this mostly this is mostly not about replacing Radix. Radix is still an amazing component library because Radix was what gave birth to shadcn as we all know today. If Radix never existed, we might never have gotten to experience shadcn in the ecosystem as a large. So big ups to the Radix team for what they did so far. Even for them to also move into base UI and also shadcn out to adapt, move into base UI, meaning that they know what they are doing, right? So I think also what makes sense about this migration is also the AI migration that shadcn how to introduce, right? So you can just install a skill and ask your agent to migrate your already existing components to base UI. Clean, very fast and beautiful, right? I'll probably be ending the video at this point. So just one thing, you're starting a new project today with shadcn. Just make sure you go with base UI because that's where the ecosystem we are going to right now, right? That's where we are heading towards. So if you already have a stable Radix UI application that is using shadcn, you don't need to rush to migrate. It still works. Your component is still going to work the same way. Support is still being handled, right, for your Radix UI that's running on shadcn, right? You don't really have to migrate immediately, but the future of shadcn apps are mostly going to be on Radix, right? Future of shadcn projects are mostly going to be on base. So let me know what you think about this change coming to the shadcn ecosystem. Will you switch today? Are you going to stick with Radix UI? And also for people that watch my video on YouTube, let me know if this yapping kind of version of video is what you want to see more on the channel. I just thought about doing something different from what is being on the channel or what you can actually see on my channel so far. Let me know if you want to see me yap more. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you keep token maxing. Make sure you keep prompting your Claude. Make sure you keep writing your loops. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.